I'm really excited to talk about this topic because I feel like a lot of women struggle with eating and even going to sugar after they stop drinking, and also just understanding our deeper patterns and why we do what we do so we don't have shame and we come from an area of compassion. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Chrissy. I'm the author of Soul Led Sobriety. I don't just help women stop drinking, I help them build empires. They turn inward, live the life that they love, and really work on what is it mean to go inward? What does intuition mean? What do all these like little terms, nervous system mean? Because when we are feeling more regulated, more grounded, and coming from a place of trust and love, life just opens up. I'm going to talk to you about my eating journey and why removing alcohol was critical. You will often hear me talk about alcohol is like an awakening, something that happens to you when you stop drinking. And even before you stop drinking, it's the questioning your relationship with alcohol. Is this serving me? This doesn't feel good. You're already getting those hits of this isn't working for me. I feel like there is something else there or a reason I'm led here. And you might not be saying that right now, but I'm going to tell you right now that there is a reason you're led to remove alcohol. There's so many things that I've had to work on since I stopped drinking that I did not suspect would be an issue for me. I thought everything would get better and my life would totally improve once I stopped drinking alcohol. And that was not the case. However, things did get better. Not feeling hungover and being more productive and feeling healthier overall is going to make you feel good, right? But then there's moments where you're like, what the heck? Why don't I feel better? Why doesn't this seem like it's easier than it should be? And I want to kind of explain part of my journey was really full of not feeling worthy of myself, having these parts of myself that would hold me back, or these protector parts would protect me from what I really needed to work on. And alcohol was just there in the background, making it really hard to address the bigger issues. Because when I was drinking, I was a binge drinker. I would do my things during the week. I would drink sometimes during the week, but really I drank a lot on Fridays and over the weekends. I didn't drink as much during the week. Now this varied by, having a son and like what was going on. But what happened was I never really got to the root issue of my issues. I just thought I have to stop drinking. I don't like the way this feels. I don't feel healthy and I don't feel good. And you might be there, or you might be removing alcohol and wondering, why doesn't this feel better? Let me explain my journey. Like I said, is when I stopped drinking, I thought my life would be so good. I thought my eating would be good. I thought everything would be better if I just stopped this one habit, this one thing. But what happened is it highlighted all the things that were still there that I just didn't know I needed to actually work on. So my eating has always been there since I was a kid. I don't know exactly when I started emotionally eating. I can't tell you, but at that particular time when I was a kid, it probably served some purpose, right? So when you think about things as a children, certain things helped us survive, right? Helped us cope with the situation at hand. And food was something that helped me probably cope at that moment with strong emotions. And keep in mind, food is paired with happy things like birthday parties. So it's not all doom and gloom. But what happened as I would get older, I would turn to food in difficult times when I felt really, I guess maybe saying dysregulated, stressed, overwhelmed, and not really understanding my emotions at a deeper level. I would turn to food. And I have to highlight, and I will do a whole podcast episode on this. You can't talk about emotional eating without talking about diet culture. So dieting, restricting, I did that. I've done Weight Watchers. I've done the container systems from Beachbody. And yes, I would take the yellow containers. If you don't know what that is, it was like yellow as a carb. And they would say you can swap out one red wine like instead of eating a carb, you can swap out with red wine, which is really, really unhealthy. And also the container system and any diet really kind of ignores your own individual needs. It just focuses on making you smaller. And I did it all. I did it all. It never brought me happiness. In fact, once you realize that most diets fail and people actually gain more weight, my weight would go up and down. And I'd feel really good when I had everything under control, meaning drinking, eating, all the things under control. I was like, I am doing amazing. And then something would happen and I would kind of go back. So when I stopped drinking, the eating stuff still continued. It would go up and down. And once my ex and I split, that was challenging. I was doing a business, being a mom, like, a single mom, and then also just trying to do all the things really, really well. I'm a high achiever, but sometimes it's good to rest. And I gained a bunch of weight and I didn't like how I felt, but I also didn't like how I felt around food. It was just always on my mind. And I look back thinking, I felt the same way with alcohol. It was constantly taking up mental energy in my brain. I thought about, drinking water in between my alcohol, eating more food. And now I'm thinking, I don't want to eat all this food because it's quote unquote bad for me. I'm gaining weight. I don't feel good. But yet I'm not drinking, and it's just it was mind-boggling to me, like, how can I go from not drinking and I can't figure this eating thing out? Because again, not only did I have emotional eating, I would binge eat sometimes, meaning so if you restrict a bunch of food, let's say you like ice cream and you restrict it all the freaking time, oftentimes you will binge on it, it's just this is part of this diet mentality and the diet culture. And so I would put foods in categories, bad and good foods. And, I wasn't stupid to nutrition. I knew a lot about nutrition, but I also was in the diet mentality and the your emotional eating mentality. So it was almost like you'd have so many different emotions. And I look at diet culture, alcohol culture very similarly. There are some differences, but they're very, very similar. And especially the emotions around emotional eating, binge eating, they're so like, oh, they're like just so similar. And I think a lot of people feel this way. Let's say you have a bag of chips or some cookies. You have something that happens before, and then you eat them, and then you feel like utter crap. And then you're beating yourself up over and over again. Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I stop eating these cookies or these chips? Like, what the actual F? Like, why can't I figure this out and get this under control? I was the same way with drinking. Why can't I figure this out? Why can't I just do this? And I found moderation with alcohol didn't work, but then also diets didn't work for me. And controlling my food didn't work for me. I tried macros. You know, I think there is some knowledge in understanding what you're eating and how much you're eating it and how it makes you feel. I think there can be a mindful approach to all of this. But like what happened with macros for me is I would eat so much food that I was like, I didn't even know when I was hungry half the time. In the morning, I felt hungry. And then I had to eat all this food. And I was like, I'm not even hungry. I'm eating this. And I'm like trying to get all my food in before the end of the evening. And then I would destroy it with drinking, by the way, just so you were aware. I could not, my macros were out of control over the weekends. During the week, they were beautiful. And I would be like, oh, I'm so good. I can't even fit everything in. But it was such disconnection because number one, I was eating like when I wasn't even hungry and I like didn't even know my hunger signals and my satiety signals. Like it really messes with you. And then you're like eating so much food. And it was a lot. I had a lot of GI issues from it too. And then it's hard to know what you actually need to do with your GI issues, right? Is it this food or this food? You don't know. And let's be honest, if you're drinking really is not good for your GI system and your inflammation. So it was just really it was a tough it was a tough ride there. But in 2025, and just for context, I stopped drinking in 2022. In 2025, I actually stopped dieting. I worked with a woman who really wasn't into dieting. I knew I needed something too. I'm like, I can't do another diet. I don't want to count macros. I don't want to count calories. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I didn't want to do it. So I didn't do it. And I learned a lot about my nervous system. Actually, like learned a lot about even insulin and what I was eating during the day was leading to some cravings that I had. Because I think the biggest thing when you stop drinking or you stop emotionally eating or you start I don't want to say stop, you start working on yourself. It's not a linear process, meaning it's not always straightforward. And also there are so many complexities to people. Everybody's different, right? And I think that's like the thing. But sleep's important. Sleep's a huge factor for a lot of things. I've learned that. Also, my stress tolerance level. Like, putting too much on my plate is absolutely going to destroy me. It's too much for me. I feel really dysregulated. And also, I have to go inward, meaning doing body scans, spending alone time, taking a walk without stimulation. I sometimes really analyze everything. So, turning inwards to understand my emotional state can be hard for me. So, but it's also something I teach people, and I know how important it is. But emotional eating for me has been hard because it's like this thing is like, why can't I get this under control? And learning about habits and your brain and learning why we do what we do and learning different ways to cope is extremely important. And I think that some people do turn to sugar or chips. And I say chips because they're simple carbohydrates. So we don't binge on apples, do we? We don't eat 13 apples. We never do. We would never do that. It has fiber and all these other things in it. The foods that we usually binge on are somewhat addicting. They're easy to eat a large volume of them and not feel so full. So, I don't crave 14 apples, right? And so if we get into like eating in the middle of the night, or at the end of the day, like at night, over and over again, we sometimes go in this automatic thing where we're like, how did this happen? I went from X to Z. And similarly with the drinking sometimes. And for me, drinking was a little bit different. I was a social binge drinker. I wasn't really a person that would drink by myself a lot. So to me, eating alone and doing those things, um, oh yeah, for sure. Like it's just like crazy, but it's the same thing. If you look at the brain parts, and I'm going to talk about this really quick. I know this is a little bit outside of my story, but I think it's important to understand this stuff. So your brain looks at the reward of, let's say, a cookie. You have a triggering event, whether it's sadness, coming home from work, having a stressful day, whatever your trigger might be, and then you've eaten, right? There's this like behavior of eating this chip. And then you have this reward, this dopamine fills your brain, and your brain sees the simple carbohydrates, the sugar, the chips, even the alcohol is really, really good. And then you have to think about too, when we have these things, you might pair it with social events, happy things, sad things. But then your brain remembers, we got to remember this, we got to remember this, we got to remember this, right? So it looks really rewarding to keep doing these things. So your brain sees it as rewarding. So what I would do with food and what I've been doing lately is this really rewarding? Is it really giving me what I want? So not necessarily removing the behavior. I'm not saying you should stop eating all your cookies, but being really mindful. Okay, I did have a stressful day. Oh, I keep doing this after I get off of work. Am I even hungry? Coming from a place of curiosity and awareness and also really compassion. Because if it was just this easy, right? If it was just this easy to stop eating all the cookies and drinking all the wine, we wouldn't be here, right? We wouldn't feel like we have a pull to these things. So it's understanding the deeper layers. And I don't feel good enough, or you don't feel worthy. Someone said something to you that was absolutely defeating. There's such deeper layers to this stuff. It's not just so simple. Some of it is truly just like the time of the day. But sometimes it's paired with other things. And so when you come home and you just open up a bag of whatever, sometimes going, oh, what am I feeling? And even if you consume the food, instead of like hating yourself or drinking the wine, hating yourself after doing, well, this is the difference, right? With wine, you might not feel really bad until the next day. With food, you often feel really crappy like immediately afterwards because it just goes right into shame. And so usually usually when you stop at the last cookie or chip, you're like, what the heck? Why'd I do that? And with wine, you'll probably just keep drinking wine, right? Until you go to bed so I think there are differences. Obviously, cookies don't intoxicate you. But I think the reason I bring this up is because what we'll do is we'll shame and hate ourselves for what we did. Why did we do that? And we look at just the behavior versus, well, why did we do that? Coming from a place of not, I hate you, from a place of like, huh, why did I do that? Like, what is going on? And is this actually doing what it's supposed to do? So with the cookie, actually makes me feel bloated. It doesn't make you feel good. It makes me feel really yucky, and I don't feel healthy afterwards. And I don't think I'm not just saying you do this and then everything goes away, but you have to understand there's a biological, physiological component to these foods, this alcohol. It kicks up all these chemicals, and your brain sees it for what it is. Like, it doesn't know that it's not good for you. Your body knows it's not good for you. Your body knows that it's not maybe the best thing to put in it. And then also too, I think with eating, this is not with drinking, because you cannot. I don't believe in moderating alcohol personally. I find it very difficult. I didn't like it. It didn't give me what I wanted. It's fundamentally easier not to drink, I really feel like, than play the moderation game. But with food, I didn't want to like never have cookies again. I didn't never wanted to never have anything ever again. But what I wanted to do is have better understanding, and and remove dieting and not feel like things like eating was so bad. And so it's like people talk about cheat meals. Well, the thing is with all or nothing, sometimes when you are a dieter, your cheat meals turn into cheat days. You have like the efforts, right? Like, well, I already ate a cookie, might as well eat 10 more. So now I'm like, okay, if I have a cookie, do I have to eat 10 more? Can I still have like my healthy dinner that makes me feel really good? And not putting cookies in the bad or good categories. How do these things make you feel? That is the best thing. Because I think if we start looking at how does alcohol, how does eating 13 cookies or a whole bag of chips, how does it make us feel? Really crappy. And does it actually help with anything? No, not really. So I think coming from a place of learning versus shaming, from a place of compassion versus judgment, and there is nothing wrong with you. Like, literally, alcohol is addicting. Some of these foods are very addicting. Like I said, you don't binge on apples, right? You wouldn't eat 13 apples for a reason. And you also have diet culture, alcohol culture, diet culture, which basically tells you that you should be skinnier. You should do this, this, this. And then there's a control factor. I feel better when I'm in control. All these counting these macros, these numbers. And I'm not saying if you're doing something that's working for you, cool. I'm just saying that majority of diets fail in a certain time period, and people gain more weight and they don't feel good about themselves. And then they try another one and they're hungry. And then you put your body in starvation. And then the survival mode kicks in where it slows your metabolism down and you gain more weight. And so there's just a lot of things that I think are important to address, that it's not just about removing the cookies, the chips, the alcohol. It's looking at the overall person and lots of different factors. You know, um, I wanted to socialize without alcohol. I wanted to have fun still. I want to have cake on occasion. Do I want to have it every single day? No, not at this point. Like, I fundamentally don't think cake makes me feel great every day. And even sometimes as I really start paying attention to my body, certain foods really feel terrible. I feel bloated and I'm like, okay, I can't eat that. What was it? I ate a protein bar. I don't do a ton of whey and I don't do a lot of dairy products like milk, because milk like literally break out. But I ate one and I'm like, I'm so bloated. And it was a protein pea or whatever, pea bar, or so it was vegan, whatever. And I was like, whatever's in this, it doesn't make me feel good. So it's not saying, oh, this is bad food, it's good food. It's, I ate this and I felt this way. Oh, this is really disagreeing with me. And although I don't like tracking my foods, I did have a food journal to get information, to understand more about how my digestion was doing, how this was making me feel. Was I hungry? Was I not hungry? What am I eating for? So I think these are important. And if you are struggling with emotional eating, I think it's important we talk about this and binge eating, because it's a very shameful thing. A lot of these behaviors we feel really bad about, like, why can't I get this under control? And often what we look like and what we're experiencing inside our bodies, like internally, meaning the war, doesn't always suggest anything. I remember being really thin and having a hugely disordered relationship with food and alcohol. And so it wasn't necessarily that I looked like I was 500 pounds overweight. And I want to say that for a reason, that the weight you look on the outside doesn't always match the internal, right? Someone could, quote unquote, not look skinny, but they are healthy and they're strong and they feel really good in their bodies. And you could have someone that's super skinny and they might look good, but they feel like stuck and awful inside and they don't feel good about themselves. So I think it's understanding, how do you feel? What are your goals? So I'm not here to demonize sugar because I feel like that's not the point of this. I'm not here to demonize necessarily everybody that drinks or everybody that counts their calories. What I'm here for is to say there's another way to do this that feels better, that's not constantly having you search for external validation, your worthiness in one more diet, and more alcohol, and more disconnection. All it does is create disconnection and not connection with yourself. And I think that this is an important topic. As women, I mean, I have a son, but still, you know, teaching men, teaching our, the boys, the girls, how to love themselves, how to not diet. I just remember so many diets and not liking myself growing up, wanting to be skinnier, controlling my food, throwing my food away. My mom told me that one time I threw my food away, my lunch away because I wanted to look skinny. I actually remember this guy in school. This was in elementary school. People are such jerks. He looked at me and another girl, and she was thinner than me. And I had weight issues in school when I was in elementary school. I was heavier, lost weight. I was all over the place. But anywho, he looked at her and looked at me. He's like, "Why don't you look like her?" You know how awful that is to say to a girl? I know exactly who it was too. I mean, there was a couple things in school that like stuck with me because it probably created some type of trauma. But anyways, I'm not trying to pathologize myself. I'm just saying that that is pretty harmful and shameful to say to somebody. And I think just what I can say is that diets don't work, and loving ourselves and going, like I said, go into compassion. Compassion for what we've been taught and we didn't know better. Compassion for what has protected us maybe in the past that no longer is serving us now, right? We might have gone to, again, emotional eating, like I mentioned, or something else to help us as a child, but it's not helping us now. And it doesn't make us feel good. And then for me, it really was removing alcohol was like this gateway for me to start working on these other areas of my life that I didn't know that I needed to work on. I knew I had an issue with food, but like I just thought if I didn't drink, everything would be good. Because let's be honest, who else has drank and has overeaten either the same day or the day after when they're hungover? Yeah, I mean, it's not that uncommon. But it also is out of integrity of who I was. I like to feel healthy and really good. And being in my 40s now, like longevity and all these things are important to me. Sleep and eating foods that make me feel really good versus making me feel terrible. And does that mean I'm never going to have pizza again or never have something else? Of course not. But I can come from a bit of a place, do I want it or do I not want it? Right? Versus like, I can't have it. Keep in mind, if you think you can't have something, not only do you want it more, not only are you at risk of binging on it or and in excess, but also you create this unsafe part in your body. So basically you can ignite the fight flight freeze response for having a pizza. You could see pizza as being unsafe and your body will produce cortisol around pizza, right? Like isn't that crazy if you think about it? Yeah, we're basically like I used to think I had to work out for like a certain amount of time and I would work out when I was sick and felt like crap. And to me, not doing certain things with working out felt very unsafe. So now I do a little bit less and I've had to tell myself, no, this is really good for your body. This isn't bad. You're working out still. You're still taking good care of yourself. And I know this is a lot of information. But I want to share because, like I said, I think it's an important topic to talk about the things that happen after we stop drinking and to normalize that just because you stop drinking doesn't mean you're not going to have things that come up. These are actual things you are supposed to work on. So I can always look at things from a different perspective. And it's helpful for me, myself too, because I am human. I beat myself up as well. I get mad at myself and wondering why I can't get my things under control. But then I had to come from a place of like, yeah, but like, what are you doing that's not working? So I mentioned earlier when I feel really like stressed out and I feel overwhelmed, that overwhelmed feeling. But why do you feel overwhelmed? What are you thinking about yourself? What are you doing? What is overwhelming about what's going on? And so I think stepping back and going, okay, what do I need? To do less, to do less, to go to bed at a decent time, to stop scrolling on my phone, to look at the habits and patterns that I'm doing, not from a place of judging myself and hating myself, but saying, yeah, this isn't working. This is contributing to my stress levels. Maybe I need a journal and do a body scan. Maybe I need to connect with myself and just relax. Do less. Do less, Chrissy. Believe me, I know our thoughts can absolutely elicit the most dreadful emotions, but they can also elicit the most lovely emotions. And our emotions are really what dictates so much, so much. Think about when you're feeling wonderful and happy. Think about that flow. But when you're not, when you're feeling stressed or worried or anxious, what are those thoughts leading you? What are they contributing to? Cravings, urges, thoughts, that aren't helpful. And so I think as I end this, I really would like people to get more curious about your habits, not necessarily coming from a place of I have to fix them all tomorrow. Because emotional eating, changing your relationship with alcohol, leaving diet culture, these are really, really big things to do. And to think that we're going to have everything figured out in one swoop is not really realistic. I think you have to understand that it takes time. It takes time, but it's absolutely doable. 100%. Like, I've done it. I don't think about drinking. The eating thing still is a thing that I'm continuously work on. It's continuously something I look into. But I'm aware of it, and I think that's half the battle. Well, I hope this podcast has been helpful as I can't speak right now.